Hey guys, what is going on? It's Voodoo 51292 here, and I'd like to welcome you to another Voodoo's Verdict, my honest and thorough game review series. And tonight we're going to be taking a look at a game that is download only. Using my clean my glasses, I have a freaking spot on them. I can't see. Yeah, we're going to be reviewing a game tonight that is downloadable only. I chose to play it on PlayStation 4, but it is also available. I'm fairly sure on the last generation of consoles and the current generation of consoles, also on PC. So there's probably a good chance you'll be able to play this game. This game is called Child of Light, and it is a game from Ubisoft. I think more specifically Ubisoft Montreal. And yeah, like I said, it's downloadable. It's $15, and I chose to play it on the PlayStation 4. So we're going to be talking about Child of Light today. So, you know, what exactly is Child of Light? Let's go ahead and first start off by giving you some of the story and kind of setting you up on the plot and setting of Child of Light. This game revolves around a young girl named Aurora, and she is actually a princess of an area of real-world Austria, the country of Austria. And it's sort of a mystery because in the intro to this game, she apparently dies, and she awakens in this alternate universe, this fairy tale world called Lemuria. And she wakes up here. She has no idea what's going on, no clue, you know, what's happening. She doesn't understand anything about where she is. And you know, as she begins to move about the world of Lemuria and meet some companions, she ultimately comes to figure out that this world that she's in is being oppressed because the rightful ruler of this world, the Queen of Light, has been dethroned by a woman named Umbra, who is a dark queen, and she has kind of taken over the land of Lemuria and infested it with dark creatures, and you know, the citizens of this country are oppressed, and you know, are living in sadness and oppression from this dark queen Umbra. So as Aurora moves about this world of Lemuria and meets friends and companions along the way, you know, her quest kind of is twofold, because obviously she's trying to figure out where she is. She's trying to get back home to her family, but at the same time she gains a vested interest in helping the citizens of Lemuria to overthrow this dark queen and kind of free their land of oppression. So that's more or less the setup of the plot of Child of Light. The gameplay. This game is definitely in the JRPG mold. It's a blend between the combat, which is turn-based strategy combat, and you know, the outside of combat, the moving around the world and the exploring for items and such. First of all, this game is 2D. The whole game is 2D, and it is linear in nature, meaning that, you know, obviously you move one way to progress. But as you progress, previous areas you've been in become unlocked, and you can actually fast travel back to find collectibles and stuff later on in the game and do side quests. And yes, there are side quests in the game. There's not too terribly many of them, but I think there's just enough to make it good. You know, you can talk to some various people throughout the world and get side quests that may require you to backtrack a bit to do some things. But I guess, you know, first of all, we'll sort of talk about, you know, the out of combat, the general exploring of the world and progressing first, and then we'll get into the combat. The first companion you meet very early on in the game, his name is Igniculus, and he calls himself a firefly, but really what he is, he's just a little ball of light. And he is your companion and accompanies you through the world of Lemuria. And you and Igniculus will, as I said, move about this 2D environment with very many hidden paths, hidden areas that you can explore to get items. Usually you'll be finding potions different types of potions that you can use. You'll also be finding Stardust, which you can apply to yourself or one of your party members to have a permanent boost to a specific stat depending on which Stardust you find. Or you'll be finding gemstones, or what they call in this game oculi. And what oculi they are upgrade gemstones, basically. And you can equip them on yourself and on your party members to gain boosts during the combat. You can place oculi on your weapon, you can place it on your armor, or you can place it on kind of a special, just a special category that, you know, depending what gemstone it is, it gives you some extra boost. So there's 3 equipable slots for yourself and each character. And oculi, there's many different kinds of gemstones, and there's a crafting system where you can take, you know, the rough gems. You can combine 3 of those together to make a better gem. And if you combine 3 of the better gems together, you get an even better gem. And you can keep doing that and build up to a what they call a brilliant oculi, which is the highest level. And as you continue to make better gemstones, it increases their stats when you apply them to your character. You can also apply different types of gemstones together to make completely unique gemstones. You know, so you might be able to combine a sapphire and an emerald to make an amethyst, and stuff like that. You can combine a ruby, a sapphire, and an emerald together and make a diamond. So there's a crafting system, and you have all these different types of oculi that you can equip. And again, that's kind of where the RPG element comes in again here, is you have to decide what stat boosts you want to give each character. You know, maybe you want to add water damage to one character, fire to another, and lightning to another. That way you have a full arsenal. Whichever types of enemies you're fighting, you'll be able to have the proper elemental attack, or, you know, maybe you want to add magic defense to this character but reduce physical damage on another. So it's just how you want to play it and how you want to apply your oculi to your character. So those are the main things you'll be finding during the exploration. Other than that, it's pretty much just moving about the world, you know, advancing from point A to point B, while looking high and low, and you know, solving puzzles here and there in optional areas to find, you know, chests and upgrades and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of exploration in the game. You don't have to do it, but certainly it's recommended because you get tons of potions and oculi and all kinds of stuff from exploring, as well as the stardust and things of that nature. And if you explore and talk to people, you'll unlock, you know, some side quests, which if you do them, you'll get rewarded, generally with some rare oculi stones, or maybe some rare potions, stuff like that. So exploring is a big part of this game. Now, Igniculus is a pretty interesting little companion, and it's funny because during the game you actually move Aurora, the main character, with the left stick, and you control Igniculus with the right stick. And there's actually 2-player in this game. Another player can actually plug in and control Igniculus if they want. Not, you know, hugely immersive or anything, but just if you have a friend who wants to participate, they can control Igniculus. But if you're by yourself, you control Aurora with the left thumbstick and Igniculus with the right. And during the exploration, you know, phase of the game, Igniculus can do several things. First of all, he can hover over Aurora and shine brightly and heal her outside of combat, which is extremely useful because you don't have to use potions and stuff on her or try to do it in the middle of combat. He can heal her outside of combat. Also, he can open certain chests. So if there's a wall and there's a chest on the other side of it and Aurora can't get to it, you can move Igniculus over to it and open it and get the item. There's also chests that only Igniculus can open by you know, lighting up and opening the chest that way. There's also chests that only Aurora can open because it has a physical lever that she has to pull. So Igniculus can do several things. There's also, throughout the world, lighted flowers, and if you touch them, it will send out like 5 balls of light, and if you collect them all in a certain order, it will refill Igniculus's light meter, but it will also give you HP and MP replenishment items if you get them all in a linear order. So that's pretty cool. So now we'll head into the combat. The way the combat works is as you're exploring in the 2D world, you'll see enemies around, and there's 3 different ways you can enter the combat. All right. If you get rushed by the enemy, first of all, you know, battle starts when you and the enemy run into one another in the 2D world, and then it goes into the combat. Another cool thing Igniculus can do, I forgot to mention, is that if there's an enemy on a ledge or something that's blocking a chest that you need to get to, you can actually move Igniculus over that enemy, light him up, and it will blind the enemy. And when the enemy's blinded, the combat can't start. So you can go right by the enemy and open a chest while you're blinding them if you don't want to fight them, and move away, and you never have to fight that enemy. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, combat starts when the 2 hit each other. If the enemy rushes you and hits you first, either physically or shoots an arrow at you or something and hits you, then that's called an ambush. And when you're ambushed, the enemies will start off being able to attack first. If you just run into each other neutrally, if you just go into a guy head on like that, it will just start kind of on a neutral level where everyone's equal on the timeline. However, if you hit an enemy from behind or something like that, another thing Igniculus can do, you can blind an enemy and then go behind him, and then stop blinding him, and when he comes to, you can attack him from behind. That's called a surprise strike. And when you do a surprise strike, you start off instantly being able to attack. All right. So there's 3 ways to enter combat, and it depends how you hit, where you start off on the timeline in relation to the enemies. So when you go into combat, you will have 2 people on your side, okay? Even though you'll have many party members you'll find throughout this game. I don't remember exactly how many I had, but it was probably around 6 or 7 total party members. You'll have 2 out at a time, and the enemy can have anywhere from 1 to 3 enemies on their side. And again, it's turn-based combat, but what's really cool about this game, which I haven't seen in other games like this, is that they actually give you a physical timeline at the bottom of the screen, with icons on it representing each player in the battle area. And it's really, really neat because it shows you where you and your partner and the enemies are in relation to one another on this timeline, which is the timeline to actually attack. And you have, most of it is a blue bar, and that's just moving across the timeline toward casting. And the bottom, the last little part of the timeline is the cast meter. And when you hit the beginning of the cast area, that's when the game will stop and you're able to pick your attack. Now you can either attack, you can choose to do an attack, you can choose to defend yourself for that round, you can choose to use a potion, or you can actually, at that point, switch out a party member when it is you or your partner's turn to cast. And the idea here is that, you want to get an attack off prior to your enemy hitting you and interrupting you. Because once you start whatever your plan of action is, once you start casting whatever it is you picked, you will move along that final little red bar, and it depends on what you cast. Some things that you cast are very quick, so you'll cast it and you'll go whoop right to the end and you'll cast it. Some are very slow, so you'll choose an ability. Usually the abilities where you attack all the enemies at one time are very slow, so you'll choose that, and then your icon will move very slowly, and when it does that, you have to be careful because then enemies can pass you up and cast before you. Now, if you're in that casting area and an enemy attacks you while you're doing it, you will get interrupted. So your attack will get canceled out, you'll get knocked back on the timeline, and it won't count. Conversely, you can do the same to enemies. So if you're able to hit an enemy in the middle of him casting, he will get interrupted and knocked out of it. So there's a lot of strategy that's employed here. And it's really helpful to have that timeline because, you'll run into several situations. Okay, you get to the start of the cast meter, alright? It's your turn to cast. And you might look and see there's an enemy halfway through the cast meter. And you have to sit there and decide, okay, well, you know, do I want to cast something that's very fast and maybe we'll pass him up on the timeline and I can hit him before he does his attack and interrupt him? I have to be careful because if I do something that takes too long, his attack will come out before mine and he could interrupt me. If you think there's no way you're going to be excuse me, if you think there's no way you're going to be able to cast before your enemy does, you can choose to defend, and then that will you know, put an extra layer of armor on you for that round, and it will make you much faster the next time around. So you can say, well, I'm going to get hit anyway, might as well armor up. You get armored, and that way you don't run the risk of getting interrupted, and you're better defended against the attack, and you're faster the next round to get to the attack. There's also a lot of strategy in there because of your companions. Like I said, you will have several companions and teammates with you, and they all have different abilities. Some characters are more buffing characters, meaning that they don't necessarily attack too much, but they'll have a lot of different abilities to cast buffs on you. Maybe they can cast an ability to speed up your attack. They can cast a spell to slow down the enemies. So they're buff characters. You know, they provide stat buffs. Some characters are more pure physical attack. So, you know, they're good at just beating to death something. Other characters are magicians, and they use their magic to they use offensive magic. Some characters are healing characters. You can bring them out and heal your party, or even revive a fallen teammate. So the characters and all that you meet are very diverse, and they all have different abilities. So there's a lot of strategy that comes into the turn-based combat. It would be really too complicated to go totally into it, but that's kind of the gist of what's going on. It's all about strategy, and you know, trying to interrupt trying to gauge the speed of everybody and their attacks, and trying to interrupt enemies while not being interrupted yourself is really the core of what you're trying to do. And of course, there's also weaknesses that all enemies have. There's elemental types in this game, so you have light, dark, earth, lightning, fire, water, kind of like Pokemon when you think about it. And so depending on and some enemies take more damage from magic, and some enemies take more damage from physical attacks. So depending on all that, you have to use your strategy as to what character you want out there and what kind of elemental attack do you want to do to try to expose their weakness, etc. Now what's cool about this is Igniculus actually has a part in the combat, the turn-based combat as well. He's not bound by the turn-based combat. He is, you can control and use him in real time. So, he has a couple different things. He can actually heal your party by hovering him over one of your party members and having him light up. He will regenerate their health. He can also be used, this is pretty cool, to hover over a specific enemy, and by lighting him up he will blind that particular enemy, and that vastly slows down that enemy on the timeline. So it's very, very useful if you're trying to get in an attack. You think an enemy's going to interrupt your attack, you can go over there with Igniculus, blind that enemy, and slow them considerably, and that way you can make sure your attack gets in before theirs does. So really cool. You have this turn-based strategy going on, but you have this character in Igniculus who is you can use him in real time, and you know, he is not bound by that, and that's a whole level of strategy onto it. So it sounds complicated maybe at first, but once you play it and you get the hang of it, it's really not complicated at all. You'll get the gist of it very easily. It's very accessible for those who aren't really into the turn-based combat. It's very, because I'm not, I usually don't play games like that, but for me it was very accessible, very easy to understand, and I didn't have any problems understanding the concepts at all. You'll pick up on it very quickly. So that's pretty much the combat of the game. Other than that, I want to talk about the artistic elements of this game. Alright? Amazing artistic style to this game. It is done in, I think it's the same sort of graphics engine that Ubisoft used for the Rayman games. But what it is it's more or less a watercolor type of art style. Now Aurora, it's kind of cool because Aurora is actually a 3D model in this environment. You'll meet a couple of other people who are actually 3D models in this environment. But the environment is 2D and watercolor, and most of the creatures and all in Lemuria and your teammates and all will be 2D. But it's got this watercolor look to it. It's beautiful graphics. The music in the game is phenomenal. Absolutely amazing music in this game. Beautiful music. Probably the most unique thing about this game is the dialogue. Because the entire game, all the dialogue in the game is written in rhyming poetry. And it's amazing. It really is. It's, you know, there's very minimal voice acting. The only voice acting in this game is you'll hear some narration a couple of times, but for the most part it's just written text. But it's all rhyming poetry, and it's just, it adds an amazing level, an amazing artistic element to this game, and uniqueness, and it's just really cool. Now sometimes maybe the rhyming can be a little cheesy or feel a little forced, but for the most part I found it to be really good and really enjoyable and not really cringeworthy or anything like that. I thought it was really cool. So yeah, the artistic element in this game is through the roof. The characters in this game are really, really well done. For characters that don't have any voice acting and speak in rhymes, you might not think that you can get that emotionally attached to a character. Well, you really do. You get attached to all the characters in this game, all your party members. They'll have all kinds of dialogue with Aurora. They'll have dialogue between each other, usually after combat. They'll talk to one another and share their stories, and you get attached to all these characters. They all have a different sort of, you know, vibe about them. They're all very vivid, and they're great characters. The plot of the game is very, very good. It has really good twists and turns, stuff you don't see coming in it. It's wrapped up really well, and the game for $15, it's about 10 hours long. If you take your time, you explore stuff, you explore optional areas and all that stuff. It'll take you about 10 hours to get through the game on the normal difficulty. There's a harder difficulty if you want to really challenge yourself, and I don't know how hard that is, but the normal difficulty, it's a decent challenge. It's nothing like really hard. I think I died one time the whole time, and that's because both my characters died in one of the combat scenes, but that's about it. To a boss or something. Yeah, there's a bunch of different bosses in the game, which is really awesome. Tons of different environments that all look very different, have their own feel to them. The game is done exceedingly well. Alright, now again, as always, it's not a perfect game. There's some things that I have to say negatively about the game. There's not a whole ton of variation, okay, in the gameplay. It's basically just going in the 2D world, looking for collectibles and hidden chests and stuff like that, and progressing, and then the same turn-based combat every time. The combat does differ from time to time because you'll be fighting different enemies with different weaknesses. You'll have boss fights, all that kind of stuff, but there's not a whole ton of variety in the gameplay here. But it's really, really good. Even though it can get repetitive, and there's times where you just skip enemies that are around because you don't have to fight them, and you're like, man, I don't want to go into another turn-based combat situation. I just want to keep progressing with the game, and it can get a little tiresome and repetitive, but that's kind of all how it is. Now, I mentioned all of the different characters and stuff that you can have in the game. I'm just checking my timer, and that's true. That's a good thing, but at the same time, you get so many characters that a lot of times, there's a couple characters that maybe you feel don't even need to be in there as far as combat goes, because they don't provide anything really that unique, and you find that you hardly ever use them. in combat. I mean, so there's just too many. I think at some point in the combat, like I said, you have 7 or 8 maybe people in your party, and when you start finding them, yeah, they're all different and all unique, but at the end of the day, a couple of them are kind of useless. I'm going to split the video here real quick, make a different part, just do a jump cut to make sure I don't run out of time, because I want to say what I have to say to do the conclusion here. So quick jump cut, and I'll be back to finish off the review. Alright, post jump cut. Yeah, so like I was saying, the characters are really good as far as story and all that goes, but for combat, there's a couple of them that really don't add too much to the combat and are kind of useless. Yeah, I forgot to mention that just like any RPG, as you do combat, you'll gain experience and you'll earn skill points that each character has, a skill tree, and you use your skill points to level up in the skill tree and unlock better abilities. So that's really commonplace in any RPG. But yeah, so a few of the characters in combat, they're not too great. And another negative thing, I had the game crash on me 2 times while playing it, which was really weird. And it was both times when I was trying to load a new area, the game just flat crashed on me. Now, it was okay because the game is really good with the auto-saves, and so when I crashed and reloaded the game, I was always right there, right where I had left off. I never lost any gameplay because of the crashing, but it was a minor inconvenience, and it was kind of like, why is it crashing on PS4? Like, it's not like a really taxing game or anything, so it really doesn't make much sense to me. So, with all that being said, alright, keep in mind this is $15. I am going to give this game a number. Usually I don't give downloadable games number scores, but because this game is 10 hours long, which is, longer than some $60 releases, I feel that it deserves a number score. And taking into consideration everything I said, you've got just a beautiful game, alright, from the art design to the poetry and the dialogue, to the incredible music, whether that music is intense, epic music in a boss fight, or very calming, maybe melancholy music during a sad part of the game. It's absolutely phenomenal and sets the mood perfectly. To the lively and vivid characters, to the fun gameplay of exploring this world and finding the hidden items, and the turn-based combat, which adds the flair of actually showing you the speed timeline, which really helps you in your strategy, as well as having Igniculus there as a real-time aid to either heal your characters or blind another character and slow them down. Tremendous story that has twists and turns in it. All that, and the price, well, first of all, the length, a 10-hour game, and the price point of $15. When you take all that in consideration with just some of the negatives I had to say, not a whole lot of variety in gameplay, can get repetitive, game crashed a couple of times, but it wasn't game breaking because I didn't lose any gameplay. Some of the characters being, I feel, kind of forced as far as the combat goes because they weren't really useful. Maybe they should have just been used in a story element and not so much in the combat. Combining all those things together, I give Child of Light a 9 out of 10. This game is a 9. It is really, really good. And again, the only reason I don't give it higher than a 9 is, like I said, because there's just not a whole lot of depth of gameplay here. Yes, it's innovative, it's new, it's fun, but at the same time, like I said, if this game had more depth maybe to the gameplay, or if there was a reason to play the game again, if there was any replayability factor here at all, which there's zero. I mean, once you've beaten the game, there's no reason to go play it again. The game actually lets you, when you beat it, it puts you right back in the world with all of your companions and your levels, and you can go back into the world and go wherever you want and find the collectibles if you want. But there's really no replayability factor here at all unless you want to really challenge yourself on the next level. I'm I don't believe there's a New Game Plus or anything like that. So if it had maybe one or two of those elements in there, it might have been even higher than a 9, but still, this game is a fantastic game. It's so awesome to see games that are imaginative, that are fun. I mean, this game is fun. It's just fun to frickin' play. And that's what it's about, man. It's not about having the flashiest frickin' the most explosions and the being able to generate the most pores on a person's face. It's not about having huge name actors in your games or whatever. Who is it now? Kevin Spacey, I think, is in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. I think it's Kevin Spacey. I could be wrong about that, but it's not about that. It's about just having fun playing a game and experiencing all that a game has to offer. The art, the story, the gameplay, the characters. That's what it's about. And it's so nice to see games like this that break the mold, that do something different, that don't look cookie cutter, that are unique, that are quirky, it's a cute game, you know what I mean? It's got great graphics, the poetic dialogue, it's all great. And for this game to be $15, I mean, are you kidding me? What a steal. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna say it right now. This game at $15, most games, yes, I said it, most games that release now for $60 don't hold a candle to Child of Light. Alright? Most games. And that's saying a lot, because you get a fourth of the price, and you get a better game than you get with most releases, with most AAA releases nowadays. And to think that this came from a AAA studio, this wasn't even an indie game, this came from a AAA studio in Ubisoft, is really surprising. Because, they could have easily released this game for $60, and it would be worth $60. But, but they saw this as an opportunity to release a game that everybody could get for the price point and experience. And you have to get this game. Like I said, it's available on like everything under the sun, of course, except for frickin' Wii, I'm pretty sure, because there's nothing available on Wii, but who cares. You have to get this game. It's a fantastic game. And I think you're going to love it. Even if you're not a fan of turn-based combat or JRPG or anything like that, still, play this game, because it's not hardcore RPG. It's not one of these things that blocks you out if you're not used to it. It's extremely easy to get into. It's very accessible to newcomers, and it's just a fantastic game with a few drawbacks here and there. But 10 hours, amazing art, $15, you can't freaking beat it. Good job, Ubisoft, and I guess Ubisoft Montreal was the ones that actually worked on the game. Congratulations on a great game. Thank you for reminding us all that there's still people out there who have imagination and who can still make great games without all the freaking special effects and the AAA voice actors and the the $100 freaking dollars of DLC nonsense that they release. Thank you for showing us as gamers that there's still people out there who care about games and who still care about making imaginative, creative, and at the heart of it, fun games. Thank you for that. I love Child of Light. It's awesome. It's a 9 out of 10. $15, you have to play it. Don't skip it. Go get Child of Light. It's a great game. And yeah, I think I'm just so happy that I played this game. You're never going to hear anything about this game, but you should be hearing everything about this game, because it's great, and it puts most $60 AAA releases to shame. Alright, so that's it. I know it's a little long review of this game, but I felt it was so good that I wanted to give you guys the whole rundown and make sure you understood how good this game was and that you would go get it for freaking the steal price of $15. Because like I said, this could be worth $60, and I would still say go buy it. But yeah, that's my story on Child of Light. That's what I thought about it. So hope you enjoyed the review. You can go check out the playthrough, even though I recommend experiencing it for yourself. But if you don't, you can always check out my playthrough, or you can check it out after you beat the game if you desire. Yeah, definitely a diamond in the rough here with Child of Light. So thanks for watching. I'm Voodoo, and I'll see you next time with more great games and more great game reviews. So thanks, and peace out.